meeting to order.
Beautiful.
Have a motion for adoption of the agenda. Are there any additions to this agenda? Councillor
I
Panasi?
move to adopt the agenda.
All in favor? Motion is carried. Next item of business is to establish the regular meeting dates for the next 12 months.
Make a motion that council hold regular meetings of council every second and fourth Wednesday of each and every month at 7 p.m. in council chambers for the next 12 months.
Discussion? Councillor Panasi?
I would just like to see if it's possible to move it from Wednesday nights to Monday, Tuesdays, or Thursdays, if any of those dates would work.
I like his idea now that I'm thinking about it, because that messed up a lot of my nights.
Survivor's on, so I'm easy.
Councillor Carrier?
Tuesday or Thursday, as Monday nights is fire practice night for me.
Which is?
Monday nights are fire practice nights.
So Tuesday or Thursday?
Tuesday or Thursday, yep.
Any other discussion?
I'm good with Tuesdays. I hate Wednesdays here. There's other things that we're sort of sacrificing to come on Wednesdays. If it doesn't matter to anybody else, it's
When
Tuesdays.
does the library meet?
The library meets usually, once a month, usually the day before, usually at the Tuesday, and the museum meets on Thursday.
Hmm.
And it's once a month.
Pardon me?
Once a month.
Once a month.
But is it the last, because this is second and fourth. So if it's the third, then whoever's on that would be all right.
Jackie.
And these are evenings.
Doesn't affect any of the committees that I've done.
Tuesday's
Thursdays
probably
isn't
good.
as good for some of the committees that I'm on.
Council-
Oh, sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Councillor Enter?
Hey, I'm just wondering, is it coincidental that our meetings follow the MD meeting?
No.
Like it's Wednesday? Doesn't matter, there's no association, no
I
agreement?
think it is just coincidental.
Okay. Because I didn't know that even until last week, so.
Yeah, remember that, I tell you.
Okay, well, we have a motion to do second and fourth. It's, we've had some discussion to go to Tuesdays, second and fourth.
I'd like to make a friendly amendment. I'd like to change it to the second and fourth Tuesday of each month.
Do you see that administratively, Kelly, as an issue since it's been?
If it goes
Wednesday?
Thursday, there'll be a problem. Tuesday's okay.
Tuesdays okay.
Thank you.
Look at your back, Mr. Commissioner. Mr. Commissioner.
I'm just trying to think of any other things that occur on a Tuesday.
It's like I'm wondering why it was a Wednesday, I have no idea, right? What's the
It's always
background?
been
It's
Wednesday.
always been, that's the only start, I mean, although we don't get
We don't
many
care.
attendance.
We could ask the audience. Ken, you've been here a month now. Why do we meet on Wednesdays?
All right, if there's no other discussion, then let's vote on it. And, all in favor of the motion?
But which
Do
motion
you want to
with the
read it back?
amendment?
Read it back.
You don't need to do on a friendly amendment. You don't need to vote to accept it. I accept my own amendment.
You can do it,
You
you don't
made
need
the
us for
motion.
nothing.
Okay, it is.
Not for
it's
that.
here.
No, I accept the switching from the Wednesday to the Tuesday. So now we just vote on the Tuesdays.
Okay.
Could you read the motion, please?
Move by Councillor Enter that council hold regular meetings of council on every second and fourth Tuesday of each and every month at 7 p.m. in council chambers for the next 12 months.
So we'll try it and see how it works out. All in favor? It's carried.
Good idea.
Well, I'm happy you guys agree.
That was easy, Frank.
Yeah, I actually thought you were gonna go for a day meeting.
No.
No, we discussed that one.
Day meeting would
All
be
right,
good. It
next
does
item of
represent
business
people.
is the establishing the council standing committee structure, page 3. Standing committees are the ones at the top where it says council committees. Is that what it is, or is it the whole thing?
thing.
Almost the whole one.
Yeah.
Okay. All right then.
It's
I've
not
said
the
it-
appointments, it's just accepting the council, or the committees as presented.
Is it not?
No, so you're going to discuss what to take out, what to add.
Okay,
And I'll
yes.
provide you the information that the ones with the other terms of reference, the ones that you consider not to be of value to the town.
Yeah.
And this is the time for.
But it's not this is where we messed up a year ago.
Okay.
It's not the appointment
No.
to the committees, it's the discussion of the committees.
Of the
So,
committee structure.
But Kelly, the recommended action, am I confused here on page 3, is just to add the airport commission and the Big Lakes, or family and community support services,
You might think about more of these. The first two are very evident,
right, okay,
but there are others that
that we need to add or take away or
yeah, yeah.
All right,
yeah.
so let's look at the council committees first. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And the finance and personnel committee did not meet at all last year. So the question is this a committee that is,
did we have members on it that did?
Yes.
And did anybody do any research what has been
We've
done
never
in the
met.
past, or has there ever been a meeting, like why does this committee exist?
Mr. Tomato?
This committee, just like the Public Works Committee and the Protective Services Committee, were all in existence before the inspection. After the inspection, it was deemed that these committees should only exist to make policies. And because of the policy-making nature of them, they were always doing administrative things before the inspection. So after the inspection, it was realized that there was not too many policies issues that finance and personnel committee was going to deal with anyways. So that's why it never had too many meetings. And that is why protective services was collapsed into the sessions that you have, and they made the presentation directly to all council as well as public works. So the recommendation has always been that to take out the finance and personnel committee because it never had any real juice.
And any of those issues we actually just deal with as a full council when it
Because
is
it's a
they-
small town, so the recommendation was that it should always come to the whole council as a whole instead of having 2 people or 3 people deal with it before it comes to council.
Councilor Panassa?
One of the things that I would suggest is, like, I understand why it hasn't met and maybe not having 2 or 3 people, driving policy but I also know that when you go to our website and stuff, there's an awful lot of policies and bylaws that aren't posted. And they're not posted because they're terribly out of date, not applicable, and the policies and bylaws need to be updated. So I would suggest that if we're not going to have a committee that's going to meet, that we add to the agenda a standing item where each meeting there's a couple of policies, bylaws are reviewed, deleted, whatever the state is, so that as we go through, at least every meeting, we're knocking off 2 or 3 of them, so we can get through and update those, and we should be able to get all of them up on the web and
Okay.
updated.
So that's a policy. It's not finance and personnel so much as it's something that perhaps you want to bring to a council meeting as an agenda item.
Yeah, but I think that's what this group was supposed to be doing, is that right, Kelly? The policies and procedures around those areas?
You mean the finance and personnel
Yeah.
committee in
Yeah.
itself couldn't deal with all the bylaws and policies because this is limited to finance and personnel.
And personnel, yeah.
But I understand what you're saying in terms of the whole
Yeah.
policy review.
Okay, so again, finance and personnel committee, shall we strike that committee and not have it anymore?
Sounds like there's little value to it.
If it's never met, what's the purpose of having it on?
Okay,
And before we got elected, it wasn't functioning either, is that correct?
There wasn't
not
function.
really.
It wasn't functioning. So it's been more than a year that it has been not functioning.
Alright, So do you need a motion, or what are you doing? We're adopting this at the end, or?
Yeah, I think what we'll do is, we'll do it in two parts. The ones with the terms of reference that you may want to bring back, and the ones that you want to remove completely.
Well, okay, we'll
We'll
do it.
figure out something, but just.
Alright, so we're
we'll
removing
note-
that.
We'll note those, yeah.
Alright. The rest of them, every one of these is needed. Unless anybody has any questions regarding the other standing committees, the council committees, 1, 2, 3,
We're
4,
only on the
5.
top section.
There's 5 of them now. Councilor Panassi?
Just the assessment review board, or is a council supposed to be on that, or can it be members at large that are trained? I'm not sure.
It can be councillors if they have the training. But that's why it says required training, and at this point, we have no one in our council, on our council that has the training. There are some people in town, but this assessment review board could be also, we can access other municipalities with people that have training. We could ask Valley View to review our assessment if they have an appeal, that they could, an assessment review. You could do a lot of different things with
Yeah,
this.
well, I was thinking of the MD, they could,
Yeah.
I mean, they're.
They sent 2 for training this year, maybe 3. So,
I mean, we don't have a lot of it, is it worth sending somebody to get trained, or should we just partner up with somebody else? I don't know if has this had any action, the assessment review board?
No, it's not had any action, and the reason being that, powers have always dealt with the issue and made it go away. I think sensibly, it's important to start thinking about training within the town of Prairie. Because I know 2 or 3 people that have it. I think Ross has it, Jeff has it. So if council can start taking it, I don't think there's anything wrong with that.
well, so the very few that we have,
Yeah.
we would be much better off partnering with another municipality, or even, you know, and I guess the other thing is too, that, the perception of having an assessment review done by a person in the same community even is, well, this is stacked
There's
against me. I'm not going to get a fair hearing, I want it impartial. And someone from another municipality would give me, impartial, because they have no vested interest. But, you know, I think that's more likely to happen. Councillor Emter?
So the process is you receive your assessment. If you challenge the assessment and pay your deposit, the assessor gives you a call and asks for your reasons and understanding, a written statement. If you come to an agreement, you're done. Right? If you don't come to an agreement, then it goes to the appeal board. And that's what this one is about. And I love the idea of an outside agency, so we're removed from that, so there is no sense of favoritism, non-favoritism. There's no finger in the pie or, you know, anti. So I'd be more than willing actually to use Valley instead of the MD, even because we're so tied with the MD, an independent agency.
We almost had an assessment, that came up this year.
Yeah.
And how it was going to work was the municipal government board would give us people that are close to our area, and she was looking at the MD. And you also need an appointed or a certified clerk to take in all of the paperwork and distribute it to the province, to your assessor, and to the complainant as well. So she said that if it came down to it, she would give us somebody, and then at the end of the day, council appoints these members. So it's by a resolution that you can appoint them when she finds them for us, and they won't be from our area.
Okay, so this one, we can open discussions with another municipality, we can follow through with this one, but we should set something up in place eventually. And it should be done before next March.
Next assessment.
So it's certainly a to-do thing for next March.
But we don't really need a board now, so we're
okay now. Are
So
we
are we-
also saying we don't want training, Councillor Carrier?
So from my understanding from the discussions, then we're all okay with removing the assessment review board off the
we're okay with not appointing any counselors to it, but we can't remove it because it has to be,
It's a requirement.
we have to
So-
fill it with something.
The appeal has. It may be filled by another municipality.
Okay, so that one will not be filled by counselors either, so now we're down to 4 that will have counselors. And are we okay with the other, with the remaining 4, Councillor Rose?
We don't have terms of reference for the Municipal Sustainability Committee.
I believe we do.
We do not, but it's informed by the, so that's not a real big problem. This is what guides that, so,
But we didn't have a meeting in the last year.
yeah.
No, and that was something that should have happened. I mean, if you want action with the town, the Municipal Sustainability Committee was the one that
So
should have
we
been driving it.
Do have terms of reference, so we will go forward with that. I just was
Yeah,
kinda
I-
confused as to, cause we called for members at large, and we have the committee, but it never met.
I never met, no, but it has enough documentation for an easy whip of it in terms of reference. It's back like this.
So, I'm just curious, who's to call a meeting of that group? Is that
I think,
us, or
no.
is that?
Actually, I think in those cases, especially the municipal sustainability, the first meeting should have been organized by the town manager to
Well, that's
say,
what he's just saying. It should have been called by us, right?
Yeah,
well, us, who?
The town.
I think she's saying
Is he-
administration.
Administration should have started the ball rolling, had the first meeting, and then from then on, the committee would have then,
Okay, well, I don't think us as a council ever call a meeting, do we? Very often.
I'm not asking.
Usually administration. I'm just saying that.
Well, yeah, I'm just wondering if it was something that we were supposed to take charge of, I'm not sure. That was my question, is, okay.
Alright, so, in this upcoming year, we would expect the administration to get the meeting, the first meeting organized, call the meeting, and then have an agenda for the first one, because the very first one is when you get the chair of your committee, and then you decide, okay, what is it we're going to do?
So we'll go through the same process of, asking for members at large.
No, these ones here actually are all, because they were late last year getting appointed, that was March 31st. Everybody that's on these committees will still stay on them until March 31st. Okay? Now, there is one person that I did take off this committee, and I think it was Councillor Carrier. Just hang on. I think
You replaced Councillor Long with Councillor Kevin.
I took Councillor Long off of what committee?
Municipal Planning Commission.
Well, I have Councillor
Yeah.
Long on the sustainability.
Yes.
Yeah, and he stayed.
Oh, I thought.
Councillor, I'm saying on the Municipal Planning Commission, Councillor Long was on that, and I replaced Councillor Long with Councillor Carrier.
Oh, sorry, I was speaking about the other committee, the municipal sustainability. Because that's the one that I didn't think we had terms of reference for.
We have terms of reference. We have terms of reference for all of these committees, don't we?
In the technical way, we don't, but we have to document that back
Okay.
in terms of reference.
All right.
No.
So Councillor Carrier had only asked to be on the one committee, the mandated committees, the council committees. And so, because he wasn't on here, I moved Councillor Long off of the Municipal Planning Commission, and I replaced with you. Now, the Municipal Planning Commission, how many times did it meet last year?
Once.
Once, so I don't think it'll be a strenuous assignment.
Going forward, let's hope that we actually meet a few more times.
And it was 15 minutes. And I got there about 5 minutes late, and it was over. So,
Okay.
Councillor Long, medium rare.
okay.
Now, is this Municipal Planning Commission, has that got anything to do with the land use bylaw?
It depends, but to some extent.
Oh,
Yeah, it depends on how the consultants are going to evaluate. But I'll be surprised if there's more involvement of the municipal planning commission in the land use bylaw.
You would be surprised
I
if
won't,
there was?
I won't be surprised.
You won't be
No,
surprised?
I won't be surprised.
So you would expect more
Yes,
involvement?
I expect some more involvement.
Oh,
Yeah.
well, then between Councillor Danak and Councillor Carrier, you might get a little bit more involved in land use
That's okay.
around town.
I trust you.
Okay, any other questions then on the use of on these committees? So we have the next 5 committees, and we're satisfied that these 5 committees will stay.
On the council committees.
Yes.
Do we need to make a motion to remove the finance and personnel committee?
We're gonna do it all again.
All at the end, okay?
All right, so let's go now to the joint boards. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's 6 of them. Councillor Empton?
Could someone explain to me the Partners in Prosperity and the Big Lakes Regional Collaboration? The differences?
Councillor
So
Mr.
the
Tomac?
Partners in Prosperity, the composition. Partners in Prosperity is aimed towards Peavine, the town, and the MD of Big Lakes. And the request is to have 2 people from each area to form that committee to deal with issues pertaining to the 3. Regional collaboration is much broader than the Partners in Prosperity. I think the intent is to have Peavine, Sucker Creek, Drift Pile, East Prairie involved.
That's right, all First Nation
All the
communities.
First
in town
Nations
and-
involved. And it started about last year. Partners in Prosperity has been there for years, and they've been talking about Sea Lake Road.
Yeah, but when was the last time they met?
Partners in Prosperity,
Once
6
last year.
weeks ago?
sorry?
6 weeks ago? 6 weeks ago, and they're meeting again in next week or the week after. Councillor Carey?
Is it Partners in Prosperity or is it the Big Lakes Regional Collaboration? Cause when we first started going,
Yeah.
we used the terms of reference for Partners in Prosperity, but then it turned into its own
You just
entity, I
use-
guess, so it's no longer Partners in Prosperity anymore, it's this other.
Yeah.
So I don't.
You just used the
Yeah.
prosperity terms of reference.
So I would agree with Councillor Emter in saying that we no longer need Partners in Prosperity because it's been replaced by the Big Lakes Regional Collaboration.
No, it hasn't.
No, I think
The
they-
Partners in Prosperity is a legal entity that we have entered into with the MD and Peavine, signed agreement saying, yes, we want to continue meeting the 3 entities. The Big Lakes Regional Collaboration is more of a, how would you describe it?
No, exactly that, a collaboration, but
It's a collaboration.
Of bringing in all of the First Nation communities, all of the regions around the area, in order to sort of have one voice when we go forward and ask for grants and funds for things like hospital education that affect everybody. Peavine, High Prairie, and the town, they have a different interest, right? Their interest is being able to meet and deal with things like just Seal Lake, which really doesn't affect everybody in the regional collaboration. A lot of people in that regional collaboration aren't focused on the Seal Lake Road. They have other interests that they're just trying to bring a broader spectrum to what would be one voice in regional collaboration. But there's only been a couple meetings in Partners in Prosperity. Well, actually, I thought there was only one. Was there 2?
2, and then we're having a third one
Third one
because
next
we
week.
want to know what's going to happen with Seal Lake. And
Right now,
Peavine-
that seems to be the only focus, is the Seal Lake Road is what Partners in Prosperity is about. Cause that's really not on the topic for discussion with regional collaboration, because it only affects this part of that group. They use the terms of reference as a guide, and that was it. It was a guiding point, because it was a similar collaboration of communities, local communities, with a similar purpose, right? To advance whatever good that they needed to put on the table.
My only confusion is, I was sitting on the Partners in Prosperity Committee, and we were using that as the,
I don't think you ever sat on did you sit on Partners
Yeah, I
in
was on
Prosperity?
Partners, and we were
And you
going
were
to that.
also-
And then, so what was going on was they were talking about this, Big Lakes regional collaboration, so I felt it was something totally entirely different, so I stepped off of it, cause it's no longer dealing with, like you say, the three of us. And with Big Lakes Regional Collaborations, they were talking about Seal Lake Road, cause the three main goals were the health, the furthering education, and also the roads, and in the roads was the Seal Lake Road. So that's why I thought no longer was there gonna be Partners in Prosperity, because Big Lakes Regional Collaboration was dealing with all of that, and there was a bigger voice, because everybody, like you say, all the First Nations, ourselves, Métis, MD, we're all gonna tackle that Seal Lake Road as well as different roads in our area.
Mr. Tomato?
I think Councillor Carrier is right. I'm just looking at the terms of reference. Initially started off with Peavine, the town, and the MD. And if you look at the terms of reference, it makes room for representatives of the business community to be part of Partners in Prosperity. It does not confine itself to only the three, just by looking at the terms of reference. So what I want to think is that it went beyond the three, and therefore was just opened. It's not constrained to only the three in terms of budget, and therefore the regional collaboration was able to adopt it. And so there may be two organizations or with a similar purpose with this kind of terms of reference, the way it's opened.
Well, before you strike, which if that's what you're intending on
Yes,
doing,
right.
before you strike Partners in Prosperity, I think you're gonna have to talk to Peavine and the MD, because as far as I know, they are intending on staying with Partners in Prosperity. So, that is the agreement, the three of us, the town.
Practice, yeah.
And there is no agreement with the regional collaboration. There's no signed agreement, there's no.
Except for they've adopted the terms of reference. It seems like it's a subcommittee of the PIP, and the PIP doesn't meet anymore. It's this that meets now.
Well, prior to us coming on, Trevor, and you're right, you know, the Partners in Prosperity hadn't met for 2 years. So there was a bit of confusion as to does this exist, should it exist, and the regional collaboration sort of came on board about that time with Peavine as part of that, right, and other First Nations communities. So it was a little bit skewed as to should that just become, so the people that were representing Partners in Prosperity, we were the ones that actually went to regional collaboration because there was no Partners in Prosperity. So that's probably where we're getting kind of confused now. But is there two groups? And now that's what we sort of have to determine. Is there two separate entities? Is there two separate groups that we should be going forward with? Because is there a reason to keep Partners in Prosperity and have those regular meetings or semi-regular meetings with Peavine, the MD, and the town, separate from what the regional collaboration needs to talk about?
And if the regional's going to work on the Seal Lake, it makes it moot for the PIP.
It'd be a good discussion to have with Gift Lake and the MD if there's a meeting coming up right away saying. You know,
It's
what's-
Peavine.
Or Peavine,
Monday.
sorry, yeah, Peavine.
Is it this Monday?
Monday, if the MD is able to put together an agenda.
Okay,
Yeah.
so it's certainly something to,
I would say
Make that
until,
mistake publicly. Kids leave.
Yeah.
I would say until we actually have a real clear vision on what the regional collaboration is going to do and how often they're going to meet, because at this point, with losing Daniel Steiner from the MD, we haven't seen that group meet as often or have as, I'm not sure what they're doing at this point. So to eliminate Partners in Prosperity right now probably wouldn't be wise. That's the opportunity to meet with Peavine where we actually have an agenda and we have an issue. If we knew for sure that was all going to be dealt with at regional collaboration, but right now that's undetermined.
Councillor Carrier?
The agreement you speak of between us, the MD and Peavine, is that, how long is that agreement in place for, or?
Well, it just guided by the terms of reference.
Just, okay.
Ongoing.
Because obviously it hadn't met for a couple of years, so they obviously didn't have that much reason to meet.
Seal Lake is their main
It's a
focus.
relationship.
Councillor Emter?
Because the two appears to be tied, my recommendation would be it's the same councillors on both. That way if one does fold, it just carries forward. At the moment, we have, the mayor is on PIP with Councillor Long, collaboration is Panasonic knows. However you guys wanna do it, I don't care, it's just, it makes sense that if one of them's gonna fold, or if it's part and parcel with each
Yeah.
other.
I get it, and I'm interested in staying involved if that works. I've met with Partners in Prosperity and Regional Collaboration as many times as they have, which is not a lot
Alright.
for either.
So we will not talk about who's gonna be on what, but you want to fold those two together. They want the same counselors on those two.
My recommendation would be to have the same two on both.
Anybody else wish to speak to that, or does it make a difference? Whether or not, because, you're certainly not, I don't know what you gain by saying, well, the same counselors would be on both, because,
What if they both are meeting on a regular basis?
pardon?
Sorry, I'm just agreeing. What if they both end up meeting on a regular basis?
Yeah. Counselor, Mr. Tamaco?
And the difficulty you have is the terms of reference for the collaboration. If you're gonna adopt that one for the Partners in Prosperity, then one has to be packed.
Yeah, but is regional collaboration gonna go ahead or isn't it, and we don't know yet.
Yeah. And if they decide to go ahead, then they can bring it back to council.
Alright,
Well-
leave it as it is then.
They haven't said they're not going ahead. They
Right.
have regular updates, they just haven't met in a while. Like, we had a meeting and it got cancelled.
Okay.
So it's not that it's not in existence. I mean, they're hoping to meet every couple of months.
Alright, so let's leave it for a while and see what the activity is and the benefit is on these ones.
So, Madam Chair, you want
Yes.
to assume then that they are both sharing the same terms of reference, just to make sure that we are consistent with our procedure and bylaw.
I'm really not sure what terms of reference the
'Cause that's what
collaboration brought back.
That's what they adopted, right? That was the basis for the regional collaboration. And that was the spirit and the letter of them going forward, because they had something that they could look forward to.
Didn't they change it at all?
They haven't adopted anything else.
Counselor Carrier?
When we met above at the Agriplex, they were supposed to get together with, I believe it was Municipal Affairs, I can't remember which entity it was, but they were actually supposed to come together, form the terms of reference, with the grants that they were gonna apply for, that'd help with that. It would kind of be like a tri-council like Slave Lake has, but would be with everybody. So until that grant or those people met, it wouldn't have terms of reference, we were just using Partners in Prosperity.
Okay, so there are terms of reference coming.
Just, yeah.
Okay. Needing terms of reference. Alright, the airport commission needs the terms of reference and that will come eventually, probably in January. Big Lakes Family and Community Support Services, again, needing terms of reference, and I believe the MD is spearheading that. So they're looking for a regional board. Councilor Demarca?
I'm just curious why there's a request to have that board all of a sudden, cause it's something proposed in the, intermunicipal or cost sharing agreement that they're requesting an FCS board. Do we know, did they say why?
I think they want more response, from the public, rather than have it being run out of an office and reporting to the CAO of the MD. He's looking for more public participation. Is there any other?
What is it that you do?
They're the ones that deliver preventative social services to the communities in the MD and High Prairie. So you'd be looking at home care, seniors, health needs, totally kind of thing. I think they liaise with food bank, victim services, do a lot of preventive social services in our community. Were you here for the presentation? Okay. Councilor
Yeah,
Vanessa?
my opinion sort of highlighted again that intermunicipal, I'm not sure if, and maybe there is a need for it, but we've been functioning without a board, now there's a new board being created and that they want a couple of members on it. I'm not sure what advantage other than getting some input, maybe it should just be members at large, like a lot of the committees are, to get the input as opposed to councillors.
And would you like to give your opinion on that? Because I also agree that many of these places could be filled with members at large, and Mr. Tobacco says no.
No, I'm just advised that this is a council committee, and you've been appointed and elected by the people to sit on these committees. Once you start throwing these responsibilities to outside world who have not been elected, they're taking a different political direction. I mean, that's something that I need to let you know. There are two different things. When council members are sitting on a committee with the members at large, there are two different scenarios than just allowing members of the public to sit on your council committees. How do they report to you? What's the reporting mechanism? There are whole issues of governance that comes into my head, so I just raise that for caution, not because it's absolute.
Councillor Rose?
Just further on FCSS, when we've been at the UMA, I asked a number of other communities what they sit on compared to what we sit on, because we're trying to figure out which committees, you know, we should be on and why other communities are. Just about everyone had FCSS. I talked to somebody at the CRC because I was under the impression that they didn't really need somebody at CRC. I had asked them when I took over for Councillor Carrier to let me know when they wanted somebody to come to a meeting, and nobody contacted me since. So I kind of presumed that they didn't really feel any sort of need to have a board member. But apparently there was a communication breakdown because they've been sending me emails to a wrong email address, and I've never gotten anything. But they tell me that they were originally part of FCSS, and that most communities have board members that sit on FCSS and like their version of it, which is they're the sort of the younger version, they're the small children version. FCSS deals with seniors and older adults in the community, but it supports services for our area which are funded, they're government funded, non-profit organizations, and FCSS is funded by town and MD money.
It's applied for,
The grants
each
are applied
municipal
for.
applies for a grant, and then we turn our share of the grant over to the MD to administer.
And I'm not entirely certain that I have a strong opinion one way, I'm just telling you what I got from a number of other communities, and the majority of communities have FCSS as a board that their town councils or their MD councils sit on. And Lindsay actually wants a representative for CRC, and their MD rep is there, I guess, every meeting, but I don't.
Councillor Amter?
I think we've been very fortunate that the MD has spearheaded and taken lead on the FCSS for quite a while for us. We receive the grant, we disperse it, we're done. I love that. No administration, no nothing, we receive a paper report, we're good with that. So now the MD is telling us that they want more involvement. Let's find out what it's about first, right? And where are you going with it? What do you want? How often do you want to meet for terms of reference?
They said that they'll provide terms of reference at our intermunicipal meeting, but that they thought that committee, that at this point they have one person that has all of the information and all of the knowledge. There's no accountability, there's no board, there's no meeting, and if something was to happen, all of that information is with that one person who works out of the MD office. And they would like there to be more accountability in that. It really is an accountability measure.
Councillor Donaka?
I'm just not sure what benefit there is to being on a board for the FCSS. But I agree with Councillor Emter that until we figure out exactly where what they see and what their vision of is of this board, I don't know if we can do anything right at this point.
Okay. So, that one says meeting terms of reference, so let's leave it on there. Mr. Tobacco?
Are you taking it out because does it have terms of reference? Or you're leaving it on because it needs terms of reference? You have to be very clear because
We're leaving it on because it requires the terms of reference, and once we receive the terms of reference, we will then decide whether or not we're going to fill the position.
it'll be
when,
brought
when
back.
they have the terms of reference, then it comes back,
It makes it easier
and
for
we
you.
can add
Okay.
Yeah.
members to the
All right,
committees.
then.
Or you can leave them as is and wait for terms of reference.
Well, it's the same thing.
Yes and no, because if you're not sitting on them and then you're saying I have an opportunity in a month to go to so many meetings, you're gonna choose different meetings.
Yeah, but you want to be cognizant of your 15.2 procedure bylaw, that you should establish
Required.
this, you are required to have terms of reference to establish these committees.
But you have to attend a meeting to develop the terms of reference, right? Like you gotta be on the group that meets.
But you can go there, but you
Yeah.
don't have to represent council.
Well, how do you
That
be there
doesn't
with
make
I mean,
much
I mean,
sense.
it's
so
your
they want two
procedure
people
bylaw.
from a.
Well, you wrote it.
Oh, I thought it was approved by municipal affairs. The reason being, that municipal affairs doesn't want us to go into throwing things on that we don't know about. And that is why Councillor Deneka and Councillor Efta have stated, until we know, the terms of reference gives you the mandate, the composition, how many times we're going to meet, and helps council to make a straightforward decision.
It still doesn't help us because we have to go to the meeting to develop the terms of reference.
Well, at the intermunicipal, you could meet and develop the terms of reference in that committee and then create it from there. Would that suffice?
And normally the administration creates the terms.
Or there you go.
Councillor Carrier?
Wouldn't an ad hoc committee work for something like that, or,
Yeah,
You can
probably
do it that way.
do it that way, but you still need to appoint somebody to sit on that committee. Councillor Carrier?
And my other caution for council, I guess, is we are coming up to budget deliberations. And I think of why a lot of people are kind of looking at this, yeah, maybe I'm overlooking it, but for me personally, I would like to see us try to remove some of this, cause if we're gonna start telling other people to watch their budgets or reduce budgets, we should be looking at ourselves first to set the example. We're already over budget on our meetings as it is, and now we're adding more committees, more meetings, more expense. So just keep that in mind when you're adding more meetings and more committees.
Councillor Long?
We have a printout courtesy of Councillor Hemter that shows how far over budget we are as council in our committees, and the committee structure and the cost of doing business. Again, when we look at this, we're gonna be over budget again. And if we're truly going to start looking at tightening the belt, as a lot of the members of the public have asked us to do, then this isn't the way to do it. If we're gonna send a message to the public, we look and we strongly look, and I encourage everyone to look at not what committees they want to be on, but what committees are we gonna dump? What are the committees that, and it hurts because a lot of people want us there, but can we fiscally, responsibly sit on all of these committees and expect the taxpayers, and what's the bang for the buck for the taxpayers for us to be on it? Or can they send us the minutes of their meetings? And if they need one of us there, ask for us and we will attend. But do we need to sit on all of these? I don't think so. And the only way we're going to get feedback from the public is by saying it's budget deliberation time. These committees are costing us an exorbitant amount of money, and in order to be fiscally responsible, we're gonna dump this one, this one, this one, this one, and this one, pare it down, tighten our belt, and then the public knows that we're being serious. Right now, one of the things we're gonna have to do in our budget deliberations, and I guarantee you we will, is we're going to say to the public, this is what we're going to do. And one of the things we're going to do is increase our allowance and our budget so that we don't go over budget, because we were way over budget. How can we keep doing that and still go back to the taxpayers? How can we do that and say to the business people, we're being fiscally responsible and we're gonna cut taxes and we're gonna do this and we're gonna do that, or God forbid we may have to raise taxes, don't take care of our own house. And so these lists, I see being significantly reduced.
Okay.
That's just my feeling.
And I will say this because I firmly believe this also. The budget that we were given was based on previous councils that had no interest in expanding anything within the town. They didn't go to meetings, they didn't go anywhere, they didn't learn anything, they never brought anything back. So of course the budget reflected that because they didn't spend the money, we're cutting. So it was reduced. So because they didn't go anywhere and this council did go somewhere and did learn something, hopefully, and brought it back, we go over. So don't be thinking that because we went over budget that, oh my God, we just blew it. And the other part is we were elected to keep our hands on the community, what is going on in the community. And a lot of these committees are things that are going on in our community. And people are asking, well, don't you know about this? And if we sit here and say, no, I'm not going to that committee, well, why aren't you? What exactly are you doing? You go to a council meeting and that's it? What for? You're supposed to be out there showing that you're interested in what is going on in our community, in our region, in our province. You are the ones that we send out to bring us information back. Nobody does that for nothing. So before you say, I am going to cut, take a look at these committees, and they have been structured so that a lot of them are ones that specifically are municipally driven. You drop out, the MD drops out, the next person drops out, the next region drops out, it's gone. And where is it going? It's going down to Slave Lake, because those councillors will say, we're interested in watershed, that's our water, we want that. You guys don't want it? No problem, we'll take that head office, we'll take those 3 employees, and we will take everything that you possibly can. So you better be aware that this is what's happening. Heart River Foundation, you can say, well, you're just sitting there and what are you learning? You're one of 25 people on that committee. And those 25 people represent that whole Northwestern region. Seniors housing, community housing, social housing. We want more social housing in this town, we have to go to Heart River. We need to build relationships there. So, to stringently cut back here is probably cutting off our nose to spite our face. Let's go back to joint boards. And again, we can take the airport commission off, or we can leave it on and say tentatively, these people are being set aside because we know the airport commission is gonna go ahead. And we probably know that FCS is gonna go ahead. But it won't go ahead until probably January. So, do we want to fill up committees and then overload someone else, or I don't know how you wanna do it.
I would just suggest that, just by your procedure bylaw, just keep it on the side. When you have terms of reference, bring it back to council so that we seem to be following our policies and bylaws, just for governance reasons. Yeah, because it will come back anyways, and the budget will fully be passed by February, March. You have enough time to make adjustments to whatever decisions you are making this year.
Okay.
So we're gonna tell the MD that at this point we have nobody going forward. We're not gonna have the airport commission or FCSS as part of our committees and appointments? Because they had asked us at our intermunicipal, so we have to go back and tell them yes or no that we have.
Tell them we're following Municipal Government Act.
No,
No, we're
that's what I'm
not.
asking.
Or
What are,
Municipal Affairs recommendations,
Just our procedure, we
which
can
was
change that.
brought forward by Municipal
Yeah,
Affairs.
I'm in touch with Bill, so he will develop the terms of reference and he'll bring it to our council and their council. It will be adopted and we'll have members of those committees.
Yes?
Is the airport commission terms of reference a contract? Like your intermunicipal negotiating committee. It's based on your intermunicipal cost sharing agreement. Is the airport commission the same thing?
The airport commission contract talks about having terms of reference. What did it say there? And it talked about setting this up, setting up terms of reference in that contract.
Yeah, but I mean, regardless of the contract, all we know is for everybody to understand what committees we are partaking in, we all should be on the same board to understand what the mandate is, what the composition is, how many times people are going to meet. That's all it's about. And once that is brought to council, it's adopted. You choose 2 people, 3 people.
It's true. So we can,
Anytime council can make decisions.
alright, so we're just aware that the airport commission and the Big Lakes Family and Community Support Services is coming up, but at this point, we're not assigning anyone on those ones. So, joint boards left. There'd be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay.
4.
4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
4.
Partners in Prosperity and Big Lakes Regional Collaboration, we're going to be separate. They are not
Yeah.
collapsed. So I've got rec board, I got 3. Oh, I'm sorry, I got 4. You're right. No matter how I count, I can't get 5.
No worries.
1, 2, 3, 4. All right. Okay, other boards, commissions, and we're satisfied with that, are we? So, other boards, agencies, boards, and commissions. Yes?
Before we go.
Yes?
The High Prairie and District Recreation Board. Again, that is something that's developed between the MD and ourselves, correct?
Yes.
And the MD helps cover 50% of the costs / debt of the rec board. Has there been discussion in regards to, at any time, to bring the rec board into the fold of the town and make it the responsibility and a part of the corporation of the town of High Prairie?
Councillor Hampton.
To clarify, you can't bring the rec board. What you could have is the rec society dissolve and the town take over the current facilities and manage the recreation within the town. That doesn't mean the MD would support or continue to support the payment of any of those. At the moment, the MD prefers it the way it is and pays 50% of the shortfall. Because they pay that $540,000 a year and that's the way they like it, unless we're willing to take on that extra debt per year, I would strongly recommend leaving it as is. But if we're willing to spend another $540 a year, then that's something we definitely should be looking at.
Councillor Rose?
Did you really think that the rec board would pull away, or the MD would pull away from the agreement to fund 50% of recreation if it was under the town?
The 2 MD reps that are currently on the rec board strongly state the way the current structure is the way they wish it to remain. I'm not saying they wouldn't do it. I'm saying that's their vote at the moment. How it would be done after that? I don't know.
Just seems there'd be lots of costs that would be saved.
There
It would just
definitely
be a department of the town, like most other communities have recreation as a part of public works recreation. It's just the way, like, we own the facilities. It should be a department of the town of High Prairie. And a lot of other communities are funded by their MDs for recreation because realistically, we have twice as many users that live in the MD than live in the town for the recreation facility. So I feel very strongly that the MD wouldn't not pay for their share of recreation if it was a town department.
I recommend you bring it up with the intermunicipal agreement and see what their voice is, because the 2 representatives that sit on the board strongly state the way it is the way they'd like it to remain.
But isn't it costing us more? That's what I'm asking.
The synergies that could be gained would definitely be, there are definite synergies that would be gained by bringing it underneath the town.
Absolutely.
There are.
There are.
Whether
Tell me
reception,
what they are.
finance, management, administration.
How?
We'd be able to control it.
Uh,
I mean, by
Okay.
through the budget, right? So
You
right
control
now,
it already
right,
through the
right
budget.
now it's being
Control it
micromanaged, and in my opinion, and please, I don't mean to be too harsh, but we've gone through, whether it's fault or not, we've gone through 3 directors, we've lost our pool manager, is that correct?
By 3 directors, what do you mean?
Well, ones that came, tired, didn't stay, whatever the case may be.
No, can I get you to clarify, please? What are you talking over, a year, 6 months?
Over the past short while, we're trying to get people on board. We now have a recreation director, it's great.
He's here for a reason tonight.
And so, my only concern is that we have so many properties out there, so many facilities, and we have a recreation board that tells us how we're gonna run. And we have really, the summer program was unfortunately a fiasco. I mean, we said we were gonna have a cost recovery, and it ended up folding because the community said, thanks, but no thanks. And so all I see now is we have turnover in staff, we have hours of reduction that people aren't able to get to the pool when they wanted to, because apparently the hours have been reduced because we don't have the staffing, is that correct? It's a question, go ahead.
Councillor Hampton.
I have a few responses though, so we've had 1 rec director resign in the last year and a half. That person had received a position elsewhere.
Yeah.
And that's why they left. So, it'd be in the last year and a half, it was Denise Lori.
The one that went to Picnic.
Yeah, Denise. That's the one in between. So we've had 1 resign in the last year and a half. Right now, we are running 9.5 hours less per week at the pool than previously. We're running at 2/3 staff because a lot of our staff graduated and went to university. So we need to develop that next set of lifeguards. We're finding a crunch, and actually if you look it up, I guess there's a crunch across Canada to find lifeguards to work at pools. One of the things that was discussed at a meeting today was our pay structure that's under review. Council actually this council has complete control over the budget. You don't approve it, it goes back. Right? If you say no, sorry, you gotta drop it 50,000, then it's gotta go back 50. We're gonna find a cut somewhere. So whether it's under here or not.
I would like to know what synergies you think you're going to gain.
Well, I honestly do think there'd be synergies in the finance, payroll, reception. There are going to be some synergies or economies of scale taken over. Some to that effect, but we've talked about also now, that in regards to reception, simple little things will be done, whereas phones will be forwarded, there's always gonna be a contact available.
Councillor Long, what synergies? Can you tell me?
Well, again, I think that when we have a board that is basically running the show, and we should have, I think, the rec director sitting as an employee like Mr. Walker is, or Mr. Martinson is, like the chief is, so that person is accountable to the town council and reports to us on a monthly status, and when we look at the staffing issues and we look at we could run it out of this facility, we could minimize the amount of staff, maybe possibly, duplication of services, we could have the reception here as opposed to, we'd have to look at it. I don't have all the answers, I'm just putting a question out there. There's a concern, and again, if we can minimize costs, then this is one way we can do it, I believe. But
Councillor Rose?
And at this point, we don't have a CAO involved, right? Either of the CAOs are involved, it's just a board, right? So Public Works from both departments has to talk to the CAO, and then they come to each issues. At this point, the rec board, the rec staff goes directly, cause it's my understanding, people have brought it to my attention, various people in the community that said that the last issue with the, pool manager, there was a letter written to the board bypassing all superiors, and that was then dealt with by the board and not by the rec director, interim rec director, whoever was the supervisor at that time. So there is some micromanaging going on. So when we're talking about synergies, also we'd eliminate board expense, we'd eliminate potentially maybe some rent if we could share some space. You know, you look at photocopying, office equipment that can be shared. I think there could be a lot of cost saving, as well as we'd eliminate that need to micromanage, because right now there's a board and there's really no boss. Like it looks like the rec director is being maybe overlooked when it comes to disciplinary issues, unless I'm getting bad information when it comes to what happened with the
Councillor
school
Hunter?
manager.
I'd just
Yes.
like to say, we're getting very far off
Yes.
topic, and I mean,
And
it's a very good
yourselves.
discussion to have, but I don't know if this is the time or the place, and we're not anywhere near there. I think it's good to float the balloon and get the thoughts out, but, I mean, we're
Okay.
here to go over
Yep.
this.
So,
And I mean, those good discussions can have them with the MD or look at the rec board and look at it, but.
but at this point,
My only thought would be that please don't run on assumptions or gossip. If you'd like to find something out, come to the board, and the board has never received any CAOs.
No, I'm just saying, but
Well-
you look at other communities,
That's-
often,
okay.
often the recreation is it just a department of the town? Here it is different.
here it
based
is
on-
different, and at this point, we're moving on this one.
Just because at the governance level, let me provide you just a quick overview. I'm not going to the operational details regarding the rec board. Just for a few minutes.
I think
it's
we wanna
important
move
for-
on. No, we have to get further onto this.
It's a big money issue, and the ministerial directive number 9 was very, very clear.
Well,
In
and I
fact,
think we've dealt with that, and
Okay.
we went through all the ministerial directives. We did it. Let's move on. At this point, we're going to have a recreation board. We bring it up to the intergovernmental, meeting and to see what their thoughts are on it, so. All right. Other agencies, boards and commissions. Prairie Municipal Library Board, let's throw this open as to specifics.
That's what I was gonna ask, if we have to go line by line,
No,
or if we can just jump up.
let's talk.
Okay, so as I mentioned at the previous council meeting, at my last High Prairie District Golf Club committee, I mentioned to them that there is no need for a counselor to be there. We received the information that was available, reported it back. My recommendation was that they make a presentation once a year, every year, first week or end of March. Last meeting in March, first meeting in April. I also said that what we should be doing as a council is have it written in so that in January we do the letter of comfort for the operating line, because it can only be done year by year, because we cannot put the town into continual debt. So we have to bring it forward every year to approve it or not, which is very frustrating for their financing. Also be aware that when the current lease agreement expires, the golf course committee will be asking for all the property and buildings and everything that's on it to be turned over to them, cause they paid for everything anyway.
When's the lease expire?
I think it's 3 years. I have a copy, but I gave copies
I
to
was just
everybody.
wondering if it was this year.
No, we've got a few years yet.
So are you
So I'm
recommending that off?
recommending that we drop it.
Okay, any further discussion on that one, or are we ready to drop that? Okay, thank you for your attendance on that with the past year. Are there anyone? Yes, Councillor Danaka.
Peace Country Library System. I know part of, like, we give them money to cover the, intergovernmental, loans. They meet quarterly. I've been to 3 meetings, and personally, I really see no benefit. They send out the minutes, we can have it, they can send us the report, we can have it here. That's just my personal opinion. I really don't see a benefit to that.
Who sits on that board? You've been to the meetings, what kind of people are on there? Are they elected officials, are they?
Basically, they're
administrators?
all council members, or MD appointments. Like the MD rep here is, from Canuso, Lori.
So it's a member at large?
Nope. Yes.
Member at large. Okay. So, that's a possibility, or we could strike it.
Strike.
Strike it.
Okay. You've sat on it, you're making a recommendation.
So there's not an MD counselor on it, just a council appointment of a member?
I believe it's a, I don't think there's an MD person, she's the, member at, the MD member anyway.
She's a member at large. Any others?
Well, I was gonna come and comment that I didn't think that the Children's Resource Council was something that we should be part of, partly because Councillor Carrier had attended and didn't see that his presence there was beneficial, like you didn't feel like that you had any significant information to bring back to us in what they were discussing. But did talk to Lindsay today, and she did say that she wanted to have somebody, they do have a regular MD rep that goes, and that they do feel that it's a service-driven nonprofit organization that relies on their board for issues of importance in the area. And I can't comment more than that because I explained earlier what I did, which was tell them to invite me to the meeting that they felt was pertinent, and hadn't heard from them since, so.
Councillor Ernst?
Back when I was on the CRC PAC, there was no town rep, and it was Lindsay that thought we should get one on there, because it increases access to the town, assets, power, manpower, things like that. It is an interest for the CRC, a financial interest is what it came down to, and a voice that would be on the board.
Is there a value for the community or for the taxpayers?
Everything has a value, it depends on what you weigh it on. I don't see a direct value for a councillor being on there at the moment unless things have changed, which could well be because I left like 6 years ago. So where they're at the moment, I don't know.
Is there an opportunity for us to leave a standing member that we ask them to invite us to pertinent meetings instead of going on a regular monthly basis? That we can still represent them, they can still have a member from,
Well, we
I mean,
get
it
the
cuts
minutes.
costs, but it doesn't eliminate us from being part of the board entirely if they do want us to be part of the board.
I don't know how the rest of you feel. Are you on the distribution lists? Is anybody getting any of the emails?
I'm getting nothing. Anybody
Oh,
getting
okay.
CRC?
Cause I'm getting inundated with CRC, they send everything out. So I can certainly add you to
She's
the
very good
list.
that way, like she does send out the information and she's
Yeah,
politically inclined, like she's a smart lady.
well, I'll
Anybody have an opinion on this?
I'll get you guys on the lists and you can, and if you feel that, yes, looks like there's value here, you can bring it back. Does that sound reasonable? We don't have terms of reference for CRC, do we?
You must have, otherwise we would have sent somebody all here.
Was I think we do.
We do.
Pretty sure we do.
I don't, I think they're more like a specific interest group, and if they can come and make
Okay,
a
what does it say
presentation,
about membership?
quarterly or whatever, we get the information we need, or if there's something special, like when they request funding.
Oh, membership will be open to interested individuals in High Prairie and surrounding areas. Any person who resides in High Prairie or surrounding areas is at least 16 years of age, who agrees to support and uphold the purpose and objectives of the society.
What about boards? Does it say who sits on the board?
I think no, because it's from the membership that you vote in the board.
Yeah, but you usually have to have quorum to hold a meeting, and therefore you have to have, you know, so many of the board members.
Well, I'm
there.
wondering, is
But-
the board supposed to be made up of
Your pool of membership.
municipal members or
No,
anything
your
like
pool
that?
of membership forms the board.
Is that what it says?
Yeah, that's the eligibility for membership, and then from the membership, you choose your board. But we're choosing council members from outside to become part of the board.
Right. So does it say anything though about boards or specifically that there's a seat reserved for us or anything
No,
like
I
that?
don't see that.
All right,
I don't see that.
in that case, it becomes, membership's open to anybody. There's no specific
Component that's saying town rep.
component saying the town of High Prairie has reserved as a reserved seat at this board. Okay. Strike it? Consensus to strike?
I'm sure they're a great organization, and I just,
Okay.
go ahead.
Oh, sorry,
No, no, no.
apologize. Finish, I will read this later.
I just question, and you made a good argument, so, but I question what ability we actually have of town 2,500 people to be involved in an organization whose primary role is the education of our small children. It should be the education system that takes on this responsibility. It should be somebody from next door that's ponying up to this and being involved in that. So whether they get along or don't get along, it doesn't matter.
Cause this would be early childhood education.
This is early childhood education. This is preschool and kindergarten, pre-kindergarten ages, and my grandson's in junior kindergarten now. Never heard of such a thing. And so, how is it the responsibility of the town?
Cause we should be looking after the smallest members of our community and making sure that
I
these
know.
services are available to them. What does it say?
Okay, I like terms of reference, they're very, very helpful. So the governance and management of CRC, the board governs and manages the affairs of the society. The board may have management and delegate authority for day-to-day operation. But a board of directors consisting of minimum of 7 and a maximum of 10 elected from among the members of the association.
So this would be similar to Marigold. Marigold deals with people with disabilities. We don't have anybody sitting on Marigold's board.
Right.
All right then, strike. All right,
But like Councilor Hampton said, if they have they can come and make a presentation to us if they have some concerns that they need involvement of the town.
I
Works
think
for me.
that's a very good important thing you've mentioned there, that with any of these that we're removing, and like the golf club, the Children's Resource Council, we should be sending them an official letter and saying, you know, we support you, you know, if you need our support, please come and talk to us. We'll be there to listen, and we value, cause we do value the Children's Resource Center and need to be able to express that to them, that it's
are you making notes on this letter you're gonna write?
Yeah.
Equity and fairness. You write to a section or you write to everybody? Thinking about that all the time.
We're writing to the ones that
So
we're
all the
removing.
ones we're dropping.
That's
Okay.
why it's
Then
like
you're no
we get
longer-
there.
yeah.
Everyone we dropped, you're all valued, you're all important.
Councilor Carey.
Just a question, I don't know if this is the right time or not to ask this one, but for the LSL EA,
Mhm.
drop this one and consider going to be part of PRETA instead? With this,
We're having a presentation on October the 22nd. Be aware that LSLEA, we've paid the membership for this full year. The year doesn't end until March 31st. So you have paid membership, you are part of the board of directors, seats reserved for the town of High Prairie. And this one specifically is one that you have to be careful of, because the MD is coming back now as an observer. Town of Athabasca is interested in joining. The The new executive director is from Slave Lake and is driving back and forth and is only part-time. This office here is a head office. It rents from the town. We get rent. We get $950, $1,000 a month, and our membership is, how much is the membership?
3,000.
2,000. So you're going to get $10,000 as long as this office stays here. If we pull out, that office will be gone. So this one is more of a political thing than it is it really needed or isn't it?
I think we
Can
need to
you-
learn more about Prairie.
You're
Yes.
a member of, can you explain exactly what the LLSEA is supposed to do or does?
It's one of 12 regions in Alberta. It's a regional economic development alliance that the province set up about, they've been working on these for 12 years. And this one here was the last one that they set up. And it was the LSLEA region, which took in Slave Lake, Lesser Slave River, the town of High Prairie, the MD of Big Lakes. The town of Slave Lake did not come in until about 2 years after the organization was set up. And that's why this head office is here, is because the town of High Prairie and the MD of Big Lakes lobbied the provincial government to get that office here and had staff here, government staff, because that's originally how it was run. So it was about, it was probably about a $500,000 office between the two staff members that were here, the office rent, the economy, buying everything here, that type of thing. So, and then the government pulled back 2.5 years ago, and the organization has been struggling since then. But since then, or in that period of time, they have got 3 MIA settlements to join. They've got the High Prairie School Division to join. They have, of course, Northern Lakes College has come on. This college, regional tourism has left because it has collapsed. And I think I did tell you, regional tourism is a possibility that perhaps could be encouraged maybe to move down to this end of the lake if the operators at this end of the lake would get their act together. But anyways, so what they do is they look at economic development from a regional focus. They're not mandated to try and get things specifically for certain communities, but they are more of a clearinghouse of information for the region. And the provincial government this last summer has been spending time trying to figure out what exactly do they want these readers to do, because a lot of them are just spinning the wheels trying to figure out, well, what are we supposed to do? We haven't got enough money. We don't know what to, what does the government want us to do? So the government is now looking at ramping up the funding again and pouring some more money into get $300,000 back into this organization, which is going to reinvigorate it, get some full-time staff, that type of thing. So that's what LSLEA does. Right now, it hasn't done anything this past year, couple but small projects, but it used to do actually quite large projects. Like it did cogeneration, which is what one of the plants down at Slave Lake is now doing with creating their own power through their wood waste. They did pennycress, which is using stinkweed for biofuel. They funded that with PRETA and found out it was a viable.
High Prairie District Golf Club has been approaching.
They have done some good work, but this last year they have really struggled. So they're looking to see good things. And when you say PRETA actually has had more success since the funding was changed because they went to a different model. And the executive director, Dan DeVelt, has been very, very successful in bringing in smaller communities, but then realized that Peace River and that area, all of those little communities, a our members, so their membership is something like 50 communities. We only have 2 towns, 2 MDs. I mean, they have counties, they don't have the city of Grand Prairie. The city of Grand Prairie pulled out and said, well, you guys will miss us, and basically the thing bloomed because the city of Grand Prairie had been saying, well, we're paying the most and therefore you guys do our projects. So, anyhow, that's what LSL is. Watershed is another one that, again, it's something that we really have to be careful about because it's a head office, it's sitting in our Moose Tooth building, it's employing 2 people, it's bringing contractors in occasionally that are spending money here. So these are ones that you may not want to sit on them, but they're helping us.
Do you wanna go first?
Just a quick question, with Watershed, what's the committee structure in the terms of reference, like, do we have MD, councillors, and
There's some members from the MD, the town of Slave Lake, the MD of, Slave Lake, no, that's not their name. Yeah, and, so there's the 2 MDs, the 2 towns are in on it. And then they have members from various agencies, like forestry has a rep, oil and gas has a rep, commercial fishing has a rep, recreation has a representative. So that gives you there's a few more, like agriculture's got a representative on it, that kind of thing. So they all get together and meet and go over those various things. So yes, we're one of in the terms of reference, we're identified specifically as a member that should be in there.
And I will tell you about Watershed. We've had 2 plans that have just come out. One is the South Saskatchewan.
Yes.
And the other one is the Upper Athabasca. We are in the Lower Athabasca, and we are next to be going into these huge watershed planning. And this one will be ramping up and probably hiring more people. Councillor Tanaka?
I think with the watershed, I think that's something that we should stay with because of the water is gonna become a huge issue in having this here. I don't know if this affects us, but I just read on the news, they're putting a 3rd dam on the Peace River. I don't know if that affects us with water, but I think we really need to stay on with the watershed. It's an important resource that's like right here.
Councillor Emter?
Okay. One was just a comment after Councillor Panasic. I believe commercial fishing's been cancelled in the whole province of Alberta, so I don't know what'll happen there. And then I was gonna move on to the Federation of Alberta Gas Co-ops and ask Councillor Long, with the Superintendent of Public Works being there, do you feel that councillors also?
The reason we are there is because we have a voting proxy. They can't vote on behalf of the town for the co-op.
The
And so-
employees cannot vote on behalf of the town because they're not elected members, is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Okay.
Correct. And so, it's one of those where we have to be a part of. Good news is, they're staying at their house and for $130 this year instead of $400 last year. So, they're aware of the financial aspects of it. Extremely interesting and important for us, I suppose, but yeah, we have to be there because we have a voting proxy. We're a voting member of the co-op.
Okay. We could talk about the 2 health committees. The Community Health and the High Prairie Community and Health Foundation. Okay, now that is the foundation that one of its committees is physician recruitment. Right now, Ken Matthews the Reeve and George Key, one of the citizens of High Prairie, do the drive around when physicians come into town. But this is a, it's something we probably have got to sit on in order to keep up with what is going on with physician recruitment, what's going on with the community health and wellness clinic, what's going on with the health in our community. So this is where some of that information comes from, is through this foundation.
The District Health and Community Health Foundation, is that the one, the first one you talked about?
Yeah.
Just one question, like, and I'm going back to what happened at AUMA with the community health and wellness stuff. It kinda came at us from the side when we got there. Like, I don't know about the rest of you, but I didn't know anything about that coming down, so, and yet it sounds like, when we talked to Dr. Worry, that the town had approved this, the town was in favor of this, and, you know, when you don't know anything about it, I'm wondering how we would have given approval, and who would have given an approval for this, and why didn't we know about it more before getting, you know, coming at us from the side?
Okay, so back up last January, when I was going to the family care clinic meetings, there was information meetings, there was the PCN meeting, the primary care network meeting, there was 3 meetings that I attended, and I wrote reports for council. Yes?
I don't wanna be a jerk, but we were gonna start our next meeting at 8 o'clock, and it's still 8:30, and we haven't gone past the second item.
You have 2 meetings?
Yeah, we have another one after this yet, the
Yeah.
municipal agreement, so
Municipal.
I don't know how much time we have.
So, we can,
Well, we do have to talk about this. Like, I don't know when else we're gonna do it, right? We have to sort of dissect some of these committees and figure out whether there's some value to being part of it, and I agree that we went in to talk to the health minister, and we worked really hard at AUMA to get prepared, but the majority of our preparation was there. It wasn't in meetings, it wasn't going into it, like, we didn't have a lot going into those couple of days, we got that information there. So, yeah, I think that we need to be involved in some health committees, but we also have to be able to get that information to all of council, cause I don't really feel like we're getting it. Like, cause we do have people sitting on it, and I don't know if it's just that, you know, a couple lines in a report isn't enough. Like, I would love to have, the foundation come and meet with us, like, to hear, so everybody had the opportunity to hear it, recorded even, so, you know, the community got the
I believe
opportunity
the foundation did come.
one time. Yeah, I'm just saying, I wonder if there's any value in can we invite some of these groups to come and update us as to what's going on? Because, I mean, I did feel like in this particular case, we were sort of blindsided. And I felt like, you know, we had to gather information very quickly and have that, you know, sort of special meeting with Dr. Word where that information was new to the majority of us.
And we had to just get on board.
And it sounds like
No,
talking to,
like-
and
You know,
talking.
I'm really, really torn here, because you all knew about family care clinics, you all knew about the primary care networks, because I had given you
Yeah,
written reports,
emails.
given you all that information. Okay, so then the next thing that comes up is that the primary care network was gonna go ahead because they advertised in the newspaper for a business expert. And I'm sure people knew that there was a business person. Well, it was advertised in the newspaper, big ad, and it said, High Prairie Medical Clinic needs a business person. Well, that was for the primary care network to get that up and running. That was back in June, never heard another word. So, here we have, you know the information about a family care clinic, you know what primary care clinic is, I mean, I explained them all to you. And then Dr. Worry came up and he phoned me and he said, are you meeting with the health minister? And I said, no. He said, well, I think you are, I think you have a meeting. And I'm thinking, well, what should we be meeting about? And he said, well, the Community Health and Wellness Clinic, of course. What is it? And that's when he gave me the information on it. And I said, you've got to come and talk to everybody. But when you think about what the Community Health and Wellness Clinic is, it's very close to a family care clinic. You got as much information as I did. You're right, it was in a hurry, but when he says, you have a meeting with the health minister, I'm thinking to myself, maybe we better take this meeting with the health minister. If he thinks we're having one, we better have one. Because there's some reason that he's thinking we're gonna have a meeting. Now, right before us,
Peace River met. They have a community health and wellness, you saw them walking out. They are one stage further than we are, and they got the money. They got the approval from Stephen Mandel. He said, yes, we're going ahead with it. We didn't get that far. We got, well, we'll study it a bit more. That's what I came out of that with. We'll study it, we'll see, we'll
It
make
was
sure.
an investigate.
But Peace River got the money. I'm hoping we're still gonna get money, and I'm hoping that Pearl is gonna help us. Pearl is really on board with this. In fact, if anything, she knows more than we do. But you know as much as I do about community health and wellness.
So where on either of these boards would we have heard this information?
Not from this foundation, but we might have heard it. We might have heard it from the new hospital, but they haven't met for a long time, have they?
No, I've not been contacted.
No.
So, I see that I'm there again, and I'll take it, and I will beat the bushes and find out.
I think there's gonna be more activity now because we're getting into
We're getting to that stage.
2015 now. And again, I don't think that's something you wanna give up.
I would have thought that they would have been the ones that, you know, would have wanted to be prepared with the information on the clinic that's going to be in the new hospital and all the other sort of missing components.
Councillor Hampton?
Councillor Long, you may wanna get in touch with whoever was on there. I think there might have been a meeting about a month and a half ago.
Roxanne Staples. Get hold of her and start saying, well, what the hell's going on here? So anyways, those are the two health committees. And we can have the foundation come. We can have the physician recruitment committee come. That's where the most of the activity is right now, is with physician recruitment. We can have the REEF come,
But that's a subcommittee of this.
foundation. But they have to report back to the foundation, so that's why we find, yes, Mr. Tobacco?
Yeah, Madam Mayor, just a point of addition about Stephen Mandel. We did send a letter to him emphasizing his commitment to the amount of money that we requested. The letter was very clear.
Okay, High Prairie District Museum and Historical.
This is a kind of a double-edged sword in a sense for me, because I am a board member anyway, or a museum member. I was before I was a counselor. It says liaison, and to me a liaison is if they have issues, they would say, could you please come? I go to the meetings anyway, not necessarily as a town rep, but because I'm a member anyway. I don't know if it's something that needs to be necessarily on here, because if there's something that will come up, I mean, I can bring that forward, but.
Or they could come as.
Or they can come, it doesn't matter. I mean, it goes against one of our bylaws, because we're supposed to only have, reports are only supposed to be about the committees that we're on. And if I'm not on that committee, I can't really talk about it, so, I don't know.
Yeah. Except that we do have designation for liaison.
Yes.
So, in our structure, and if you're that liaison, then sure, absolutely.
I can be a liaison, I don't have to attend the meetings per se, and.
What are the terms of reference? Are we designated a seat on that?
We don't have the terms of reference.
Cool.
With the museum?
I don't have the terms of reference for the museum.
Then that's why we're a liaison, not a
Yeah.
member. So we're not a member.
Okay,
So if there's something special, they can come to us and say,
Well, they
hey.
can come to us.
Yeah.
so strike?
Strike.
Right.
I notice, just moving on, that nobody is listed by community futures, and it says one board member, so I'm just wondering.
That's a decision whether the council wants to return back to community futures or not. This is a regional board that we eliminated the last time. And again, you're looking at building relations with your neighbors, but I don't know how active Community Futures is at this time. So, have they sent us a letter asking us to appoint anybody?
No.
Strike, so we might wanna wait until they come back to us again?
Yeah, but at this point, we could remove it from the list for now. And then if there's worthy of going and adding on, we could add it on.
Okay. But be aware that Community Futures is it's an organization that has that regional viewpoint that should be of value to our town.
Have they ever met?
Yes, actually, they meet regularly.
Oh,
They argue a lot. This is their problem. They're not as active as they should be. They discuss a lot about what their mandate is, whether it is loans or is it economic development. So, any other ones you wanna discuss? Pearl River Foundation?
No, I think we're good. Oh, could we get a report from the council that was on the solid waste management?
Yes, it's, that's one committee that doesn't meet very often. I think we've been to, over the past year, 4 or 5 meetings.
I've been to 2.
Yeah, so they might meet every 6 months or every 2 months kind of thing, so they don't meet all that regular. The meetings are usually pretty good because they have to make decisions about who's gonna get the contract for this, and so you're going through that. They make decisions about if they're gonna allow new members, what would be the cost implications of that, which directly relates to the town and how much we would pay. Decisions like I had mentioned the soil reclamation proposal that's been put forward to them. So those are all things, I think it's a worthwhile committee, and it doesn't cost the town much to go to those meetings, you know, it's, and it has a direct impact on the costs of our town, that would impact our taxpayers, so I think it's a good one.
Alright. Councillor Hampton.
I'd like to make a motion to adopt the list as amended.
And we have,
what did we decide for Community Futures?
We
Strike.
dropped it.
Oh, strike, okay.
If they come back and ask, then we will ask them to come as a delegation and explain justify why they.
Oh, okay, okay.
If we are,
Did we have somebody say no?
no,
No.
no, I just brought it back as something that perhaps you wanted to look at this time, because it was taken off last year. Alright,
do we need to, or I don't know if Crystal caught all the ones we wanted to remove, but we should make sure we've got those clarified.
So
Yeah, for this.
CRC is struck, Community Futures, the Golf Club, Museum and Historical, Peace Library System, Airport Commission, Big Lakes FCSS, and Finance and Personnel.
Yep.
Correct? Okay.
okay, all in favor? It's carried. We're not doing any ad hoc committees, the next item is establishing any ad hoc, no recommendations.
I just received confirmation.
Council, could I have a motion, please? Councilor Carrier,
Council received the Town of High Prairie Ad hoc Committee's update for information.
all in favor? It's carried. Do we have to do this way, or can we just say, go through this list, take off the committees that are struck and then adopt this?
No, what you want to do is just make a motion to, if we have a motion there, very straightforward.
Well, the way you've got it, it's appoint each person separately. I would like to just make a motion, once we cross off the people that, not the people, but the committees that we have struck.
Yeah.
If nobody has any, comments on what's remaining, then we just adopt.
You have it in
Chart.
2 parts, yeah, you have the
Yep.
council committees, that you can make a motion to
Adopt.
with the following people on these committees, so just one sentence. And then you
can't make a motion once we cross off these, the 6 or 7 committees, just to adopt the sheet, the chart.
We want the names named.
You want the names named, that's what I'm asking for.
Yes.
Okay, you want the names named.
Yeah, so that, there's
All right, well, we're gonna take a break for 5 minutes, we're gonna update the chart, and then we'll name names.